my colleague Charles Murray wrote a book a few years ago called "In Our Hands," a plan to replace the welfare state, which was a it was an argument that basically voucherized the entire welfare system. And part of it was, to my mind, an exercise in bluff calling, which was to say, okay, liberals, if you believe in a compassionate response to the plight of the poor and the underclass, this is certainly a compassionate way of dealing with it. What do you think? And I don't know how successful Charles was, at least in 2006 when the book came out, of forcing liberals to reevaluate some of their core beliefs. But Charles also believes that we are heading to a point where very serious reevaluation of the welfare state will have to happen because of economic necessity. How confident are you that we're maybe at that point now, or getting to that point soon, or where do you see that falling? Will it take some sort of crisis of the kind that we're seeing in Greece, or an American version of that? Are you confident that we'll get there, and that is what will prompt a reconsideration along the lines of what you outline here, or something before then?
Well, I think short answer, yes. I think that simply sort of muddling through along the basis we have been is going to become increasingly difficult and unpleasant and unpopular. I mean, people like Charles Murray and our friend John Samples at Cato, who's also recently written a book on the limitations of government, and we can put out these books and argue, as conservatives have been doing, with varying degrees of intellectual success, but imperceptible degrees of political success, that the welfare state is unsustainable, that it's indefensible. But I don't think that this is going to be syllogisms are not going to settle this question. Votes and dollars are going to settle this question. When it becomes impossible to raise the money by one means or another to fulfill the promises the welfare state has already made, plus the new ones that its champions are wanting it to make, then finally we'll have to have a reckoning. And it could be, what you hope is, for the sake of the country, is that we see the writing on the wall early enough that we make relatively non-panicked, non-crisis-driven adjustments, at least a few years before we get to the point, as you say, a country like Greece has, where it has sort of spent itself right up to the cliff's edge and has no choice then to do things that are quite drastic, very disruptive, and very controversial. If that's where, at least at the margins, the books and the syllogisms can help, if there's a kind of intellectual inventory to draw on for the people who are trying to talk us back from the brink before we get right to the edge of it and say, now wait, we don't have to. Just because the people who favor the status quo that has prevailed for 78 years don't really have a conception of what it would mean for it to have a limit. The fact is, we only have so much money. Let's consider ways to spend those finite dollars to better effect, more shrewdly, less in a less sloppy and ill-disciplined fashion, a less corrupt fashion. I think if we do that, then we can do ourselves and the country some good.